So you know that changes are coming. You don't like that song, Eli's coming, hide your heart, girl. Here it comes. Hi everybody, thank you for joining me here today at Re-Written Vintage Homestead. I'm not at the homestead right now, I'm at work, and I've typically saved these types of videos for the reading of the doll maker, but I've got something on my mind today that's just kind of eating at me that I wanted to share with the rest of you. And I'm sure quite a few of you are thinking of this as well. It's like, even though today is November 1st, it's like we're still living a nightmare, like it's still October, right?
I know that he is a witch.
So once again, everyone, I did my research so you don't have to. Some of this I already knew, but I wanted to get a good timeline for us to talk about it, okay? So it all started on December 8th, 2021, when Joe Biden, right before he took his first day of office, when he told the citizens of the United States what his agenda was going to be. And so on December 8th, he signed an executive order that there would no longer be fossil fuels used in the United States by the year 2035. Now, when you have a big declaration like that, you're giving everyone a heads up, right? That's everyone from us as citizens to automakers to power producers to grocery store owners. I mean, everybody. January 20th, 2021, Biden put an end to the Keystone XL pipeline. Okay, so that pipeline ran from Canada to the United States. Well, here where I live in the Midwest, and it actually had like 3 stages to it. Okay, so it was going to run, it was already set up to run here in the Midwest, and then it was going to split another arm to the east and another arm to the west. Okay, well, he put an end to all of that. Now, that would have given us about 800,000 barrels of oil a day coming from Canada. But because of environmental concerns, that was stopped. Now, if you talk to someone about that today, in regards to the price of gas or the price of oil and how that impacted it, those that agreed with him will say, you know what, it wasn't even running. It wasn't even running when he ended it back then. Well, 2 arms of it weren't running. One arm was, and they will tell you it would have taken him 2 years to get it up and going. If they had continued, continued with that project. And they're right. It would have taken about 2 years. Well, guess what? That 2 years is almost here, and we sure as hell could have used it, couldn't we? All right, so yeah. On January 21st, his second day of office, he suspended new oil and gas leasing and drilling permits on public lands and waters for 60 days. Now, something we need to think about is if you, let's say we have a farmer, okay, and we're like, we go to that farmer and say, I am going to need a bunch of tomatoes because I want to make a bunch of ketchup. There's just going to be a huge demand for ketchup this year, and I want all the tomatoes I can get. Well, this farmer runs out and he buys 3,000 tomato plants and puts them in the ground, and all excited, and invest everything that he has into those tomato plants. Well, then we come to him in 3 months, 2-3 months, and we say, Mr. Farmer, take that back. We're not going to do it. We don't need it. We didn't project things correctly. We're not going to need all that ketchup. Oh, well, he's out a lot of money, right? So then we come to that farmer again in 6 months and say, hey, guess what? We're going to have a boom on spaghetti sauce. We need all the tomatoes we can get for spaghetti sauce. If you were that farmer, what would you say? Yeah, I don't think I want to invest my money in all of that right now. I want to see what the economy is going to do first. I want to see if that really does happen before I invest all that money. You're going to be a little leery, right? Also, too, even if he wanted to, the farmer can't grow a tomato overnight. It takes time. It takes time to get the seed to form a plant. It takes time for that plant to produce fruit. It takes time, as we all know, right? As homesteaders. And the same thing with oil production. You can't just turn it on and turn it off and say, I want a lot of it or I want none of it. It takes time to get those resources going. So let's move on to May 28, 2021. So to recap, just from January 20th to May 28th, 2021, we canceled the completion of the Keystone XL pipeline, canceled leases to drill for 60 days, and in May 28th, 2021, we increased taxes on oil and gas companies. Okay. Well, you know, if I was those oil and gas companies and I've had all this happen in just a few months, I would be selling my product overseas. They clearly don't want it here in the United States, right? So I'm going to send it overseas. Now, while that was happening, United States oil producers are sending theirs overseas. Where are we getting ours from? Russia! Yes, they're the biggest producers of oil and gas, so it's coming from Russia. Okay, so, you know, inflation starts rising. Prices are rising. Americans are getting upset and they're criticizing the president a lot, and he hasn't even been in office for a year. So what does he do? He taps into our strategic oil reserve. Now, let's look at those words closely. Strategic oil reserve. So when you're thinking of that, think of your pantry, okay? So you're building your pantry right now for winter. You know, you may not be able to get out in the winter. You may get the flu or coronavirus or something bad in the winter. So you're stocking up on chocolate. Chocolate, Molly does. So you're stocking up on chicken noodle soup and 7-Up and things like that. And building your pantry so you don't have to get out in the bad weather. And because of inflation, and you're just a little worried about the economy. What good does it do you to stock up on all that and do all that canning and do all that work if you're taking from it right now, right? You need to save it for the colder months and for the winter. You're putting it away then. If you're still able to travel now, if you still have some extra money, if inflation hasn't hit you that hard, keep that for later. Okay, so you're being strategic in your thinking as far as your pantry. That's what our strategic oil reserves are intended to be as well. We keep those there for emergencies. Not only emergencies here in the United States, but we have released that oil to other countries that are experiencing emergencies. So what do? We get into it. So we're no longer producing those fossil fuels here in the United States. We're importing them, and we're getting into our reserves. So we're sticking our hands in the pocketbook. So in November 2021, inflation reached a 30-year high. 18 million barrels of oil was sold to China. Of ours, taxpayers, strategic oil reserves, we sold it to China. Now, when asked to explain that, the president said, it is with the notion, the idea that we will get more to replace what we are taking out at a better price in the future. Well, yeah, that's what you hope, right? But what if what if that keeps rising and rising and rising and it doesn't get replenished at a lower price, which is kind of what we're seeing now. 32 million barrels of oil was released to us as citizens to reduce fuel prices in the United States. And then he sat back and he was like, see, I brought the price of gas down. I brought the heating fuel down. I brought it down. I did it. Well, you did do it, but you took out of our reserves that we could really use this winter. In March 2021, the Securities and Exchange Commission came up with a rule that companies had to disclose their greenhouse gas emissions. Okay, so what does that do? Well, if I am a consumer and I'm really, really worried about greenhouse gases, right? I'm going to look at what companies are really emitting a lot of greenhouse gases, and I'm going to buy from elsewhere. And that's our choice as American consumers. It should be. You should be able to buy and pick and choose your utilities and things like that based on your values and what's important to you. The problem is that this rule diverted production away from the United States and instead sent it overseas. So these companies quit investing in building their product. They quit investing in expanding. They quit investing in drilling. They quit because they're going to be slapped with all these fines. They're going to be losing money. In March 2022, Russia invaded Ukraine. And it was during that time that the Biden administration announced a ban on Russian oil and other energy imports. So that starts this month, the month of November or December. So that's going to hurt us even worse, right? We're not going to have that coming in from Russia anymore. Not allowed to do it. Now, we'll take it from other countries, but not from Russia, who's the largest exporter. We also, in March 2022, he made an announcement that 1 million barrels of oil a day, beginning in May until October 2022, so that was until yesterday, would be released. So that comes to 184 billion barrels of oil being released. I'm sorry, you guys, 184 million barrels of oil being released from May to October, and that's coming out of our strategic supply as well. It's getting low, The Biden administration said there would be penalties implemented in the near future on unused oil and gas leases. So the point I was trying to make a few minutes ago was, would you continue to pay to drill, to expand your drilling operation, to expand your business, to put more money in the United States if you could make more money outside of the United States? No, you wouldn't. Well, now the United States is coming and saying, doggone it, if you don't, you're going to get fined. Well, but in the beginning, they said, we're getting rid of you. We're going to be getting rid of you. And that's our goal, is to get rid of you altogether. But now they're saying, we are going to fine you if you don't do it. It's just so contradictory. I mean, it's like the left hand is not talking to the right hand. What do you want? Okay, so we currently have 1 million barrels of oil in our strategic reserves. If we turn that on and use that, at the rate that we've been using it, let's say we have to use it, it would run out in 6 hours. This isn't a statistics I made up. I don't care what your political bent is, you can look it up on every type of channel. You can read it everywhere, and it's a true fact. So we are so low. Our own government is projecting we're going to be out of diesel fuel in about 25 days. So let's talk about all the things that happened in the month of October. So things are starting to really peak with this energy crisis. OPEC announced that it was going to cut oil production by 2 million barrels a day. Now here we are saying we need it because we're not producing it on our own anymore. We really need it, and they're saying we're going to cut it. So what happens? Okay, so our president visits Saudi Arabia, and he asks them to put that off for a month. Collusion, Russia collusion. So he's colluding with Saudi Arabia, or trying to, until after the midterm elections. Well, they don't like us. They never have liked us. Those Middle Eastern countries hate us, right? So what do you think they said? At the time where we are the weakest, no, we're not going to up our production. No, we have shareholders, we're getting rich. You guys, it's business 101, supply and demand. The demand is greater than the supply. So they're going to jack up those prices, right? Now, you may say morally, that's not right. That's not right. People may freeze. People may die. Yep, that's true. But this is business. This is business. It's as old as Adam and Eve. It's the business. And so when they have the demand as high as it is and the supply as low as it is, thanks to us stopping our own production, they're going to jack up the prices. And so they're saying, no, we're going to cut it. We're going to make the supply even lower so we can make more money. So what happens? The Biden administration came out in October and said, well, we're going to come up with some ways to penalize you then. Okay, number one, they don't care, really. They can't stand us. But number two, it's like we're cutting off our nose in spite of our face, right? So now we're saying one of the ways we can do that is we sell them arms. We sell a lot of those countries arms, United States made. Well, now we're going to stop doing that. So that's going to shut down all of those companies that make military arms. Okay, well, that's a good thing. That's a good thing. No, that's not a good thing. Some of those countries are trying to protect themselves from Iran, that's trying to develop a nuclear weapon. So they won't have the arms that they need to protect themselves. We won't be able to overnight say, okay, start producing these again. It doesn't work that way. It takes time. So it's like we just keep snipping off our nose, doesn't it? So I'm really worried. I'm being honest. And what does not run on diesel fuel? We won't be getting things that we order, because how do they get here? They get here on ships. And then how do they get here? They get here on semis, jet fuel, everything. Our whole commerce system is based on diesel. But it's not only diesel. The way that, from what I read, the way they explained it is you've got your heating, oil and gas, you have your diesel, and you have like your jet fuel. And those are all included. And what they're saying is this 1 million barrels that are left. And they're saying we have about until the first week of Thanksgiving, that Monday, which is November 23rd. If it's not replenished, we will be out by November 23rd. Well, okay, so I read other viewpoints on this, and they're saying, well, wait a minute, that's just an estimate. Okay, but here's something you need to remember. This is coming from the Biden administration, okay? This isn't coming from conservative thinkers or think tanks. This is coming from his own administration. They're the ones who said we will be out by that Monday of Thanksgiving if it is not replenished, okay? But other pundits are saying, well, they're not taking into consideration that in the meantime, we are importing more. And in the meantime, we are producing more, and that will be replenished. Well, that's true, you guys, but we've already seen in just going over these few little statistics, factoids, that we're not producing at the rate that we should be. We're not importing from the rate that we should be. And when we cut off Russia, in the next month, we're going to be hitting rock bottom. Prices, they're projecting, this is the Biden administration is projecting that the cost of diesel will go up 33% in the month of November. It's going to affect everything, the cost of food, the cost of clothing, transportation, shipping, jobs. Do you think you're going to be able to keep your job if you're a truck driver? Do you think that these local privately owned trucking companies are going to be able to pay for that? What about garbage disposal, right? They rely on diesel. Do you think those small companies are going to be able to stay in production? It just, the reach of this is huge. So it's like I said in the beginning of my video, today's November 1st, but it's as scary as if it's still Halloween, the month of October, with what's going on with our energy supply. And it's so ironic if you think about it. So this administration wants to stop using fossil fuels in our country. Yet, we're begging other countries to keep producing using fossil fuels, right? So it's like, do they think pollution isn't going to make its way over here? I mean, it's in the atmosphere. We're not in a bubble, you know. So just because we stop it here doesn't mean it's not going to be going on elsewhere and make its way to us. So unless you have, I think there was a philosopher one time that said, a forest is only green if all the trees are green. So you can't just have one green tree and say the forest is green, right? Unless everyone is doing it, the entire world is doing it, you're not going to see a big change. And this is also something I've been taught, and I've taught my kids. You don't quit a job until you have another job lined up. Because if you quit a job without having another job lined up, you're going to go, you know, you're going to be broke for some time. For every job now, there's how many applicants? Hundreds. So the correlation I want to make there is you don't just say we're quitting drilling. We're quitting the Keystone Pipeline. We're going to tax this and tax that and tax this, and we're not going to do it here anymore until you have the next system already set to go. And we have nothing set to go. There's nothing. Even if everybody, you know, some states are pushing you towards, you have to have an electric car by, you know, so many years, you won't be able to get parts, you won't be able to buy gasoline-fueled automobiles anymore. They don't have the power grid to support all of those electric vehicles. So you don't stop one thing until you have the system in place to take care of the new thing, right? But to me, that's just all common sense. I don't know. I'm not trying to act like I'm any brainiac or anything, you guys. I just follow the news a lot. I read as much as I can. I read all kinds of different news sources, and I pay. You know, I'm there at the grocery store paying. I'm there at the gas pump paying, and it's hitting my wallet. And I just think it's, I worry about the elderly and low-income people with cold weather coming on. I heard a woman that was interviewed the other day. She's recently a widow. Now, before she had her husband's income as well. Now she just has partial Social Security from him and her own Social Security. And they asked her about rising fuel costs. And is there anything you can cut back on to, you know, make that so it's not as hard on you? And she said, yeah, food. And that's what families always do, don't they? They go to the food, and I just won't eat as much. I won't buy as much. What about those families with children? So you're basically, for global warming, you are choosing between nutrition and staying comfortable in your own home and not freezing to death. And this is 2022. It's just, I don't know. The whole thing is ironic to me. Tell me what you think, you guys. Leave some comments down below. You don't have to agree with me. A lot of people don't, and they've been leaving their comments, and I leave them up there because, hey, that's what this is all about. As long as it's done in a respectful manner and we're not being mean to each other, that's what I want. Give your opinion on, tell me what you think. And another reason I wanted to do this video today is we vote 7 days from today, midterm elections, and I want to encourage everybody to get out there and vote. We can turn this around. We can stop these crazy trillion-dollar plans from being passed in the near future when we're so in debt as a country and when inflation is so high. So read up on your candidates and let's vote. Get out there and vote. You can do early voting. You can do the, corrupt mail-in voting if that's what you want to do. You don't always know if your ballot's going to get there or if it's going to be correct, but I prefer to do the old-fashioned voting and march my big butt in there and let my voice be heard. And I encourage you guys all to do the same thing.